In this pod-slice summary of the Jordan Peterson podcast, Dr. Jordan Peterson and former Prime Minister of Australia Tony Abbott explore diverse topics including Australia's position in global politics, economic challenges, cultural conflicts, the carbon quasi-cult, and the threat of escalating conflicts like China's aggression towards Taiwan. Starting with Australia's international profile, Abbott elaborates on its unique position as a non-threatening yet globally significant country. According to Abbott, unlike several other nations, Australia doesn't have grievances against or from others. Its rich history of welcoming migrants, fighting on the side of allies like Britain and the United States in wars, and its commitment to being a fair, free, and friendly nation portrays its potential to contribute positively to global peace and partnerships. The discussion then turns to Australia's concerns, primarily about maintaining prosperity and security amidst issues like risk of recession, inflation, supply chain challenges due to the pandemic, and geopolitical tension. A critical problem Australia faces is regarding energy. Despite being rich in coal, gas, and uranium, it suffers from a restrictive approach towards using these resources due to the prevailing emissions obsession. This issue is amplified by the country's geographical positioning in the Asia-Pacific region, which makes them extraordinarily conscious of the challenges posed by China. The conversation also mentions the cultural complications the West is grappling with, like university campuses focusing more on indoctrination than education, and a lack of rigorous learning in schools. These predicaments impact Australia and the rest of the West alike. Delving into the emissions obsession, Peterson and Abbott debate the environmental and economic implications of not fully exploiting their abundance of natural resources. Australia's hesitance in using coal and gas domestically while exporting these resources to countries like China extensively is seen as bewildering and irrational. They discuss how such self-damaging activities lack substantial impact on global emissions, pointing to examples like Germany, where misguided green policies have amplified emissions instead of reducing them. The conversation also notes the paradoxical rejection of nuclear power as an emissions-free form of energy by those advocating for drastic emissions reduction. They posit that this could be a manifestation of an anti-industrialism and anti-humanism sentiment. Abbott sees this emissions obsession as behaving more like a new religion or cult rather than a rational conservation strategy. In this part of the discussion between Dr. Jordan Peterson and Tony Abbott, Peterson questions the growing perception of human activity as inherently harmful and the singular fixation on carbon dioxide as a moral issue. Peterson argues against what he views as the oversimplification of climate change into a singular wrong to be combated, likening it to a religion that purports superiority because of opposition to carbon dioxide, a perspective he deems problematic due to its potential detrimental impact on global poverty. Peterson muses that prosperity fostered by cheap energy allows societies to become more environmentally conscious. Abbott agrees, pointing to the environmental neglect and devastation plaguing lower-income nations that do not have the resources to protect their ecosystems, thus aiding these countries to achieve a better standard of life, a healthier environment, and a stabilized population requires global development and environmental respect. Abbott points to Africa as an example of this transformation, where nations that have achieved a certain level of income differ greatly from their previous conditions. In discussing the emergence of environmentalism as a religious-like undertaking, Peterson and Abbott explore the implications of faith. They question whether the decline of conventional faith has led humans to seek out new beliefs, such as the green thing. Drawing from personal experiences of encountering environmentalism in unexpected settings, Abbott supports Peterson's statements on faith, emphasizing that its absence can lead to confusion and disunity. They suggest that prioritization and hierarchies of value are crucial to human interaction and societal functionality. Without a core belief, individuals lack direction and societies lack cohesion. In essence, faith provides a roadmap that leads to a collective goal, and without faith, we are simply lost. Peterson and Abbott explore the theme of faith beyond the scope of traditional religion, suggesting that in absence of it, humans gravitate towards other belief systems like environmentalism, money, or pleasure. They suggest that this shift is linked to the decline of conventional faith systems and the human need for a driving purpose. Their thoughts are in concurrence on the point of environmentalism and its parallels with religious faith, where they criticize the sanctification of nature, the worship-like fixation on reducing carbon dioxide emissions. They uphold the importance of conservation, but express concerns over the overemphasis and moralization of human contributions to climate change. On a deeper level, they discuss the implications of self-consciousness and self-focus. Peterson elaborates on the psychological concept that focusing on oneself leads to negative emotions like pain and anxiety, disrupting the natural flow of events. To overcome this, individuals need to identify with superordinate elements that extend beyond themselves. Abbott highlighted the importance of humility, acknowledging that we do not have all the answers and that it's vital to respect and immerse oneself in tradition. He underscores that maintaining this humility allows for the balancing of intelligence and faith. Returning to the religious vein, they dive into the Bible with a focus on the book of Exodus. The story of Moses and the burning bush expresses the idea of a unifying spirit across history's great acts. Peterson connects this to respect for tradition and the importance of a guiding spiritual principle across history when one takes on leadership. Despite the intellectual pride that could be instilled by their achievements, Abbott talks about developing humility. They evaluate the tragedy of modernity's amnesia toward the Bible, heritage, and history, criticizing the ignorance paired with scorn towards these traditions. From an early age, Abbott was deeply engrossed in historical narratives, mainly from British history, learning of extraordinary individuals and soaking up their lives and exploits. Acknowledging the nuns and Jesuits who taught him in school, he admits that these authoritative figures left a profound impact and played a massive role in shaping his perspective. Abbott places particular emphasis on the role of his mother in his upbringing, as she was the one who introduced him to these important biographies. By nurturing his understanding and respect for great personalities from the past, his mother indirectly instilled in him the notion that greatness and courage truly exist. This view contrasts sharply with that of those who choose to see historical figures as oppressors, a viewpoint influenced by negative experiences with masculinity. Drawing from his own experiences and speaking of his parents' marriage, Abbott indicates that positive, affirming relationships in one's family could shape attitudes and outlooks. His belief is that most people are essentially good and that the ultimate aim should be becoming one's best self, maintaining that investing energy in bitterness gets us nowhere. Peterson draws attention to the Bible's story of Job, highlighting Job's maintenance of faith in the face of tragedy as a model for handling hardship. Both guests touch on the potential pitfalls of becoming bitter and resentful in adversity. The consensus appears to be that while you may have good reasons to feel these negative emotions, they ultimately serve to exacerbate your suffering. They suggest that trying to find goodness even in the darkest times is a more constructive approach, asserting that maintaining an upward orientation can prevent tragedy from turning into complete misery. They also note the importance of practicing virtues such as humility and gratitude, which are key aspects of religious faith. The main idea being that consciously adopting such attitudes can vastly boost one's mental and emotional strength, enabling better coping with life's downturns. Abbott re-emphasizes that suffering is never to be sought, but can be ennobling when encountered. According to him, making the most out of suffering rather than hastily dismissing it is the better way. He endorses the idea of remaining involved in the sacraments even if one feels they do not offer any immediate benefits. Tony Abbott, an influential figure in Australian politics, highlights his commitment to open communication and principled engagement, irrespective of his role or position, as according to him, it is about consistency, to deliver on the promises, and to stay true to the commitments, whether as a local school teacher, professor of law, or country's leader. Abbott admits that his political journey had been marked by vibrant successes and stark failures, attributed in part to his strong convictions and unwavering ideals in the shifting political landscape. He was a successful leader of the opposition, but his tenure as prime minister was cut short due to perceived inefficiencies and criticisms for going against the prevailing socio-political zeitgeist. Abbott remarks that serving as the leader of a government is more challenging than leading the opposition due to the multifaceted roles and responsibilities involved. Despite the adversities, Abbott maintains that he did his utmost to reverse policies propagating emissions obsession, to ensure border protection, and to diffuse regulatory burdens and taxes. He strived to uphold traditions and valued institutions, knowing in turn he attracted an extreme dislike from critics, including members of his own party. Personal faith, according to Abbott, plays a significant role in shaping his outlook, attitudes, and responses towards challenging scenarios. The lessons derived from these experiences have a profound underlying theme, echoing the sentiments of biblical Job. While it is easy to become bitter and resentful in adversity, maintaining an unwavering faith and striving to find goodness, even in darkest hours, should illuminate the path. Having been dethroned as the Prime Minister, Abbott concludes that he would still choose to stick to his principles, make sacrifices, and strive for change to better the society. Even though history may view him as a man of controversy, his goal has been about advancing the well-being of the people he served and not his personal ambitions. It's an ethos he feels is currently lacking in public life, where individual success often outweighs the collective welfare. Australian politician Tony Abbott draws parallels to the way China and Russia think about Taiwan and Ukraine, respectively, calling both these regions rebel provinces. He articulates his views on what China's and Russia's influences could mean for the international landscape, with the dialogue pivoting towards China's strategic ambiguity in balancing cooperation, competition, and confrontation. Abbott reflects on how China, under the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, has evolved over the years, from prevalent optimism about China's potential progression towards political liberalization to the current state of increasing oppression of its citizenry. A notable point Abbott emphasizes is China's particular focus on taking Taiwan by force, if necessary. The conversation then turns to the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine, where Abbott compares Putin's invasion of Ukraine to how Beijing might perceive the seizure of Taiwan. He employs a peace through strength approach, urging Western nations to send clear signals to China and Russia about the potential enormity of international opposition to any attempts at territorial hegemony. Abbott echoes this sentiment by suggesting deterrence instead of an increase in possible cataclysmic engagement. Abbott believes that reciprocal actions from free democratic countries like Australia will play a significant role in negotiating with these authoritarian regimes. Emphasizing on standing in unity with global partners and allies, he underscores the importance of maintaining strategic strength to confront such challenges. He acknowledges that the current leaders might have strategic ambiguity, but opines that they are gradually altering its meaning. Addressing the Ukraine crisis, he terms Putin's actions as monstrous and expresses admiration for Ukraine's united, heroic, prepared, and creative defense despite Russia's superior resources. He believes the ideal outcome would be Ukraine regaining its territory and driving out Russian forces, but he admits that the decision ultimately rests with the people of Ukraine. Abbott concludes the discussion by emphasizing the importance of supporting Ukraine without escalating the conflict, an approach he suggests applies to other democracies too, including Australia. Tony Abbott takes a moment to express his respect for the work done by Dr. Jordan Peterson, especially his commendable impact on young men and his advocacy on the perennial virtues. He emphasizes the importance of grasping these timeless truths to enrich one's life. Abbott acknowledges the considerable achievements of countries like Australia and the broader Anglosphere. The world was more prosperous, safe, and free in 2020 than ever before in human history. He attributes this to the values nurtured in this sphere. Abbott expresses a deep admiration for these values and urges people not to reject them, but to cherish, renew them, and carry them forth. Although present situations may seem ominous, he believes a self-assured approach would benefit everyone. In the face of economic, military, or cultural adversities, surrender, according to Abbott, is not an option. Aligning with Dr. Jordan Peterson's principles on responsible citizenship, Abbott affirms the importance of defiance in defeat, resolution in war, goodwill in peace, and magnanimity in victory. The duo convene on the basis of nurturing a vision for the future, one that respects the wisdom from the past and provides hope, alleviating unnecessary anxiety. Peterson emphasizes the significance of this being a voluntary affiliation, aiming to inspire rather than force or compel. They conclude on a committed note for an upcoming meeting in London, echoing their shared enthusiasm for their joint cause. Abbott expresses appreciation for the positive response and support from the Australian side. He looks forward to more meaningful conversations, hoping their efforts will yield favorable results. The conversation concludes on a note of mutual respect and acknowledgement of each other's insightful perspectives. Check out the full podcast by clicking the link in the description below. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this. Thank you for listening to this podcast summary episode of The Pod Slice.